I hit my 40s last year, it felt like a big deal. Milestone birthdays tend to be a bit of a time for self-reflection, as well as for cake. And I found myself thinking about my relationship with money and whether I have done enough to get myself to the financial position that I envisaged I would be at this stage in my life. I'm going to share with you the money rules and habits to master by the time you are 40. We're going to be talking budgeting, saving, and spending smart. If you can do this before you're 40, then you will set yourself up to get ahead. If you're already 40, then now is the time to get started. The first money habit to master is to stop beating yourself up about your relationship with money. One of the most valuable things you can do for your finances is to tackle your attitude towards money. This is everything when it comes to your current financial situation and your potential future and meeting your life goals. If you view money as something that you are bad at, then you will be bad at it. If you say to yourself, I don't understand this, I am bad with money. When I spend money, I feel guilty. I have no control over how I spend money. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are defeated before you even tried. And the thing is, no one is going to come along and fix it for you. It's called personal finance for a reason, because you're the one who's in the driving seat. It's personal. So if you have found yourself spiraling over debts or spending habits, then tell yourself that now is the time you're going to flip the switch on your relationship with money. Stop telling yourself that you are bad with money and tell yourself that you are going to make positive changes to take control of your budget and your finances. The next tip is to view money as a tool that you use rather than it being a constant source of negativity and stress and a constant battle to get more of it. If you're constantly focused on needing more money, then it's very, very likely that as you get more money, your spending habits will simply adjust to fit with the income that you have. And this just eats up any gains that you may have made. The trick is to focus on what brings you joy and to focus your spending on things that give you long-term benefit. For example, family holidays that give you lasting memories. I was very much someone who put my head in the sand when it came to money. During my 20s, I just didn't really bother with saving at all. Thank goodness I did pay into my pension religiously. I was really, really on top of that. But I just felt that my salary was so low, it seemed like even attempting to take control of my finances was pointless because the money just wasn't there to do anything with. And that meant that I felt guilty when I spent money and I felt worried constantly about checking my bank balance. I really wish that I had seen money as a tool rather than something that I had no idea how to control. And this really isn't about drumming into yourself that spending is bad and saving is good. It's about forming good habits with money that become routine and put the control in your hands. And that leads me really nicely onto the next habit, which is intentional spending. And this is where you're making the most of your spending decisions, putting your money towards things that you truly love, that truly enrich your life. One of the biggest misunderstandings about frugality, and I think it's this misunderstanding that leads a lot of people to avoid frugal living, is that frugality is about bringing your wants down to zero and your needs down to virtually zero. But frugality is not about taking pride in never spending. As I said earlier, money should be viewed as a tool, and it's not a tool that you should just leave on the shelf gathering dust. It's there to be used when you need it for the stuff that really brings you joy. Life has to be a little fun. It's about understanding what you have coming in, what money you need to set aside for the future, and how much money you can afford to spend on the fun stuff that you really love. Number 4 is to know what really matters to you. Intentional spending is only possible when you know what really matters to you. And in the age of social media, it's really hard not to get a little bit lost when we're not only comparing ourselves to the lives of our friends and family, our nearest and dearest, but also to literally millions of people all around the planet who are sharing their highlights reel, the best of their lives on social media. I am someone who is extremely online, and so I have struggled in the past with preventing other people's spending priorities and habits from influencing my own. For me, one of my worst weaknesses was clothes shopping, and this idea that buying brand new clothes all of the time was normal. I remember one day I opened my wardrobe and counted out like 20 dresses that I had only worn once that ranged in price from about 80 to 100 pounds. That's like 2,000 pounds worth of clothes that, in all honesty, I didn't really need all of those. Realistically, I wasn't getting to wear them all that often. Some of them I was only wearing once. So I think that was a really important wake up moment for me to make sure that I was establishing my priorities. And your priorities will be very personal and specific to you, but once you spend them, it will be so much easier to avoid falling victim to comparison syndrome, because you'll be really, really clear on what matters to you and what should be the priority for your spending. Number 5 is to create a wish list. If you are someone who struggles to stick with intentional spending or is often tempted by impulse spending, then creating a wish list could really, really help you. With a wish list, you just note down or add to your shopping cart the things that you've seen that you are tempted to buy. And you keep a list going, and then you visit it maybe once a month or once every other month, and you decide what on that list do you actually need and what is in your budget, what could you actually afford. And the benefit of the wish list is not only does it help you focus on which of these things you can actually afford, and if you can't afford them, then you won't buy them, but also it gives you time and a bit of space to think about whether these things are actually a need. And honestly, when you give yourself that time, it makes a massive difference to your impulse control and can really, really help you say, actually, no, I don't need that. That's money that I'm not going to spend today. Number 6 is getting best value for money. Laziness can really cost you dear. Have you ever rushed to check out to buy something and then a few days later noticed that there was a 10% code on the internet somewhere? It feels like you just threw money away. So always look for the absolute best deal. And that doesn't necessarily mean looking for the cheapest thing. Oftentimes the cheapest thing is actually going to end up costing you more in the future because it doesn't necessarily last. What you're looking for is good value for money, so that every single pound or dollar that you are spending is going to the best possible use. If you buy cheap, then you just end up buying twice or thrice or even coarse. Is coarse a word? Number 7 is to stop buying vibes. One of my worst money habits has been to buy in order to make myself feel better, or to buy something new for a special occasion because I wanted to feel special in that moment, even if I had stuff already in my wardrobe that was appropriate for that occasion. I think it's really understandable that we develop this attitude towards new stuff because everything in our culture, in magazines and on social media and celebrities that we follow is all about getting new stuff and being seen out and about wearing something shiny and brand new. And people are praised for it in society for stepping out with this brand new thing and looking amazing. So try and find a way to really enjoy the stuff that you already earn. And actually with this mindset flip, what it can help you do as well is be more intentional with your purchases, as we were talking about earlier, because you will be more focused on buying things that you are really, really going to make the most of and really going to enjoy wearing or really enjoy using. If you really love the buzz of getting new things or trying new things, then arrange a swap with your friends so that you're switching clothes and shoes and handbags so that you get to change up your style regularly. Number 8 is to budget for every version of you. You are a complicated person. Now, I'm not saying that because I know any specific drama about you, but it's just true. We are all complicated in our own ways. So our mindset and weaknesses can change depending on the situation. If you sit down to do a really strict budget, then that is going to be the super hyper focused budgeting, saving side of you. And that's going to be a very different person to who you are on a Friday evening when your work friends are encouraging you to go out and you want to spend some money on a meal out and some drinks. My point is that when you set a budget, you need to consider your life realistically so that you can make a plan for how you can afford that life for every single version of you. A crash budget is very rarely going to work because it's not realistic, and when it doesn't work, it can actually be really to the detriment of your budget because then you just kind of think, throw your hands up, I'm not even going to bother trying, I'm just going to spend, and you stop trying to even control your spending. You feel like a failure, and that takes me back to my first point, which is about your money mindset. Your attitude towards money is going to feel really, really negative, so you have to be realistic. The next tip is to pay yourself first. When we lose control of our budget, it often means that saving becomes something that we do at the end of the month with whatever we have left and we can afford to save. and that's not going to help you to meet your savings goals. The best thing to do is to decide a percentage of your salary that you're going to put away every single month and to automate your savings so that it leaves your bank account shortly after your income hits your bank account every single month. The next tip is to make sure that your money is working hard for you. There are tons of different options for where to put your money. Now, I am not a financial advisor, and more importantly, I am not your financial advisor. However, generally speaking, if you put all of your money in a current account or an easy access savings account, you're probably not getting the best rate of return for it. You want to find the best deals for your money so that it will grow over time. You don't need to be Warren Buffett in order to do this. You just need to seek out the best interest rate and also not be afraid to dip your toe into investing, although I would avoid the crypto bros on TikTok when it comes to that. In the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki says that it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. And that leads me really nicely onto this next tip, which is harnessing the power of time. If you're watching this and you're in your 20s, you have got such a great opportunity right now. If you're watching this and you're already in your 40s, now is a great time to start. One of the best decisions I ever made from day one of starting my first job, which was incredibly badly paid. I think it paid me around 18K when I was 22. But the best thing I did was to sign on to the company's pension scheme and also do added voluntary contributions on top of that. So I was maximizing the amount of money I was putting into that pension. And this was a teeny weeny amount of money coming out of my account every single month. It almost felt pointless. But then you take it to 15 years later of being in full-time employment, during which time my salary has gradually gone up, not to heady heights, but it has gradually gone up. And then I was putting away more money, and the compounding effect of time means that that pension pot has grown. My point is that starting to save early with even small amounts put in a bank account or investment account that's giving you a decent rate of return means that you're going to benefit from compound interest over time. That means that your money is making you money. In the book, The Psychology of Money, which I really recommend you read, Morgan Housel says that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe because it allows the smallest of elements to grow into something immense. The next tip is to max out tax-free savings. You don't have to know everything about money in order to save more and build wealth, but it is wise to take advantage of tax-free savings options. Now in the UK, that's going to mean paying into your pension and also using ISAs. Now there are various different types of ISAs. I'm going to focus on two. There's the cash savings ISA and the investment ISAs. You're allowed to save £20,000 into one or more ISAs per year. You won't be paying tax on interest that you earn. When you have time on your side, it makes sense to make use of an investment ISA because over time, the returns on that tend to be more favourable than a cash ISA. Number 13, more money equals fewer problems. Notorious B.I.G. once sang, "Mo money, mo problems." Now I hate to disagree with the late great Biggie here, but I'm afraid I beg to differ. A higher salary does make everything easier with the right spending and saving habits in place. No matter how frugal you are limited on how much you can set aside into savings every single month by your income. More money can only lead to mo problems when you allow it to escalate your liabilities. So wherever you can, invest your time and money into improving your skill set so that you can move up the career ladder or change career path and unlock a better salary for yourself. Number 14 is to cut your biggest costs. If you look after the pennies, then the pounds will look after themselves, so the saying goes. But to be honest, guys, you need to be looking after the pounds as well. Here's what I mean by that. I was reading an article a few months ago about a couple who were earning six figures and they were struggling to make ends meet. Now, they were very specific in this article that they weren't having flash holidays, they were shopping at budget supermarkets, they were keeping their wants extremely low, they weren't spending huge amounts of money in the week on going out. They said that they were being extremely frugal. But then when you read how much they were spending on big ticket things, private school fees and their mortgage, then it made sense why they were struggling so much. Their monthly outgoings that they'd committed to were adding up to thousands and thousands of pounds. And my point is that cancelling a Netflix subscription isn't going to help in this particular scenario. It's true that when you look at the smaller items in your budget and make changes, that can add up to make a big difference, but you need to pay attention to those big ticket items as well. Your home, your car, your choices in terms of family childcare, whether you go for a nanny or a childminder, make big differences to your budget. Sometimes downsizing on your big ticket items is the solution to balancing your budget, not axing your daily takeout coffee. The next tip is to scroll less. The more we expose ourselves to social media, the more it can cloud our judgment about what's real and what isn't. When we start to believe everyone else's hype and filtered lives, it can make us feel less satisfied with what we have. And it can also lead to overspending as we try to keep up with the Kardashians and everyone else. Spend less time online. Try and limit the amount of time that you are spending on social media and do other things instead. Go for a walk, read a book, find something else that gives your brain space to just breathe. Number 16 is never spend to look rich. People who look rich are not necessarily wealthy. Wealth is often the stuff that you don't see. It's the money that wasn't spent, the car that wasn't bought, the bigger house that wasn't purchased. If you spend money to look cool, it's usually a road to ruin. And there's a paradox here, because you might think that when you spend money on a brand new designer handbag, that other people look at you and think that you are cool. But actually, oftentimes they look at you and feel envy and think to themselves, if I have that handbag, then I will be cool. They're thinking about themselves and not you. The trouble with spending to look rich is that people rarely have enough money to keep up with that. Instead of using your best tool, your money, to achieve your life goals, you're using it to try and keep up with the Joneses. No matter how much you earn, if you are spending to look rich, then all you're doing is gaining liabilities and not assets. Instead, use your money to invest in your future, buying a more relaxed lifestyle and peace of mind. Even the top 1% budget, it's how they stay in the top 1% and continue to grow their wealth. The quickest way to lose that wealth is to spend it. And my final habit for you to master is to love what you have. You don't need a 10-step skincare routine. You don't need 20 refillable water bottles. And you don't need a restock drawer full of makeup. When you really appreciate what you have, it forces you to focus when you actually do spend on getting stuff that is really gonna last you and that you're really going to enjoy. And as part of that, I also think it's really important to embrace simple things like quiet luxuries, taking a walk with your family, going for a picnic with your family, spending time at home binge watching some movies together. Just find ways to enjoy life that don't cost a thing. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed these money habits to master by the time you're 40, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe for lots more money tips from me.